Round 9 of the Scrabble Players Championship from South Bend, Indiana is now underway. Round 9 features Tony Leah at 7-1 against Jason Keller at 5-3. Still early in this tournament, still very much anybody's title to be won. As long as you're above 500 or so at this point, you're in great shape, but every win matters. And both of these gentlemen with a tough challenge in each other. Got to try to increase the number in their win column. Matt Canik on headset, joined today by Chris Canik, my brother, and we'll be giving you the action in this one and the next two games of the morning session. Chris, are you familiar with either of these players?
I'm definitely familiar with Jason Keller. I see he's stopped sporting his old colors, if I'm remembering him correctly. Is this a new color we're seeing him wearing, or am I misremembering a different player?
Jason wears a lot of neon orange, does a lot of
Yes.
neon orange, but I think his tradition is it's Monday of the Nationals where he breaks out the
Okay.
orange. So I think tomorrow, if Jason can stay in the win column and earn himself a spot back on the stream, that's where we'll get to see the orange in all of its majesty. For today, we're just going to have to watch Scrabble. I hope everybody's okay with that.
Oh, not Scrabble. I'm just
Scrabble.
kidding. I'm excited for the Scrabble too.
I think this game shows the beauty of Scrabble to me, or this matchup does. Jason, I got to know over, a bunch of different little tournaments, but he came down to Austin when I was still living there, and we went out and got dinner, and then I went to go visit Philly, and we met up there, So you make friends all around the continent through Scrabble. And then Tony Leah, I had the pleasure of spending 2.5 hours in a car with. I drove him and Michael Fagan back from the Niagara Falls tournament to Toronto, and he's just a really awesome guy, a really nice guy, got tons of knowledge and information, and just seems like he's lived a really cool life. And you just meet awesome people from all around the country when you play Scrabble, all around the world when you play Scrabble. Tony from the Toronto area and Jason from the Philly area. But, make two friends playing this board game. Tony, to go first, CDENTZ blank. Ooh, I always dread drawing racks like this in Collins because the Z is so good, but you want a bingo as soon as possible. And so you have to play it in a sad play like Zed to score some points. ZED for 26 and be sad that you squandered the best tile in CSW. Maybe he plays Zinced, ZINCED, burning the blank for 54. Chris, Zed or a lot of points here? What would you do?
That is really tough to decide, honestly. I feel like you have to play Zed. Zinced for the points is tempting, but I feel like at the very beginning of the game, with so many possibilities left there, and keeping CNT blank, I think Zed might edge it out, but it's worth considering, I think, for sure.
It's worth considering, but I think ultimately I would have done what Tony did, and I think most players would as well. It's really hard to pull the trigger on burning a blank on the first turn, especially when you can score 26 and hold CNT blank. So I think a reasonable decision there from Tony. A tough opening rack, but I think he's navigated it well. And AEGMOTU, the rack for Jason, out game is not valid, and there are no playable bingos here for Jason. So he gets to figure out what to do in response to Zed. He can play underneath, or he can take out the back hook. ZEDA is valid. GAUM and Zeta, or Outage and Zeta, both look like really nice options in this situation. Omega also plays beneath Zed, making ZOEM and DE for 30. Or he's got the fun extension. He can just extend Zed to outgazed. Lots of good options here. Tough turn, but I think GOM, kind of the boring play, the standard play, and is also the correct play here. What say you, Chris?
I completely agree. I think GAUM, getting rid of G and U, scoring not the best score possible, but scoring still very well. I think this is a pretty straightforward option. Worth taking a couple seconds to look at it, but yeah, I agree with Jason. Don't spend too much time on it. Also, don't play outgame, obviously, and then drop down your best equity play.
Drop down your best equity play. He does. And now back to Tony, who again has the blank on his rack and another clunky power tile, this time the X, CDINTX blank. and Tony wasting no time finding his top option of TIX. Not much to offer in analysis there because got very few options. That's about all you can do. Anything you spot on that before we shift over to Jason, Chris?
Nope. I think I also play ticks for however many points that was in about 15 seconds. I think it edges out Nix as well, which is really your only other considerable option. I think C and D is better than CDT.
Nix could be a little bit more defensive for those overlapping plays. UT takes the back A, takes the back E, takes the back S, whereas UN has fewer back hooks. But I do think the synergy of this leave makes this reasonable. CDN feels better than CDT. And Tony wants to bingo as soon as possible. Everybody's had those games where you draw a blank on the first turn and then you don't bingo till like turn 6 or 7 and you score 15 or 20 a turn in the process. Can't get caught up in that situation. Jason's going to score too well, too often. You need to get that bingo down now. And Tony will next turn. I'm grateful from him. ELNNOOT, the rack for Jason. He's got to try to play off 2 of these O's and an N. And he's got a few different plays that do that. Loon, Noon, and Oon, just OON, all in this spot. Jason opting for Loon here. And that makes sense.
I think he had one pretty interesting play that might have had to spend a little bit longer to find. I'm not sure it's right, but Let Out under Zeta there was worth consideration, I think, as well for the extra points.
Let Out to the UT. That's cool, but the NNO leave is yucky. 26 on the possible. Neat opportunity there, but Loon, again, very standard. And I think maybe you don't want to try to get too cute in a situation that looks really easy. CDNORS blank is the draw for Tony, and he threatens several bingos now. His highest scoring options are 80 points. 3 different bingos score 80 points in this situation for Tony. A bunch of 79 and 78 pointers as well. Take your time, Tony. Make sure you optimize this rack as best as you can. To me, it looks like the standout option plays above Zeta, making DZO and SEN. That would be the word uncords, UNCORDS for 80. But there are a lot of spots to play, and Tony gets to figure out what line he wants to take away from Jason in this situation. Uncords, while it was my preferred play, is hilarious because the U blank that it exposes is exactly what Jason needs to bingo with Squinter. 90. So if Tony finds what I think is the most optimal bingo, it will actually be the least optimal bingo because he yields 90 points. A huge turn for Tony here, and we'll see what he does.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously not having the knowledge of Jason's rack, I feel like Uncords is probably the superior option. A lot of the other options will hang something in a triple line or score less. But yeah, it is truly unfortunate that should he spot the, optimal bingo, he gives back the only tile Jason could possibly bingo with, I believe.
Yeah, he's going to need a U to bingo with his Q. So, yes, unless there's like some crazy alternate spelling of Kintar in CSW that I don't know. So, Tony's going to take away the highest scoring line on the board. And I didn't run a sim on this turn, but it's possible that just avoiding the devastating overlaps next to TIC is the best thing to do here. You limit Jason's options. So he's opting for Scorned here instead. This is 78 points as opposed to 80 for Uncords. But yeah, taking away the opportunity for Jason is a good idea here. And also not spending 7 minutes optimizing this rack is a good decision here. So Scorned, the play from Tony. He leads 130 to 46 and does not give Jason the U that Jason needs to hit Squinter. Jason with a tougher decision to make now this turn.
For sure, yeah. And lucky for Tony, or perhaps divined out of nowhere, not to drop that U in what theoretically could be the optimal bingo. But in terms of bingoing this early, Scorned is also a bit more defensive as well, keeps things a little bit blocked off, except for the hanging S. So maybe worth considering this as the best bingo. And I think Jason has just the most straightforward play you could possibly have here, dropping QI very quickly.
Yeah, QI is about all you can do. You don't like making this play without another I to overlap, but ENRST is just such a solid leave. Board is getting kind of tight to bingo on, but it's such a good leave. You've got to make this play, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's an argument to be made for trying to find a place to drop the N or maybe even QINS for more points, but I don't think that's worth entertaining for what it gives back.
This is an interesting decision here for Tony. He leads by 60 points. DEGLNOR, bingo prone, but no bingos home for Tony. And he's got a bunch of different intermediate plays that have some merit and stand out here. He's got the tiles he needs to play beneath Loon, a play like OLD. Beneath Loon, making OOZOL and END is 26. He's got the tiles to play on top, a play like Drag or Droger on top of Zeta, making DZO and other overlaps scores very well as well. But Tony opting to play, I think, the very straightforward game, score a bunch of points, keep the 1-pointers on your rack. Dog is 32, and you really can't pick this play apart too much. It feels fine.
Yeah, you're considering tiny fractions of difference between things like old, dog, nog. Yeah, there's so many different things that go basically in all the same spots. So pick one. Don't spend too much of your time.
Yeah,
This one, well, I will say dog does keep good things to come back to this same spot with. Keeping the E and the N for Ode and Zune is actually pretty interesting. So this may be, I'm sure he was thinking about that as he picked this particular option.
All right, so Jason's drawn into a bingo. This is easily his highest scoring of natures, and Tony's pulled into his own bingo of plenary. So nature is going to be 81, which will bring Jason to 151 compared to Tony's 162. But plenary and the T exposed in natures gives Tony a second bingo of plenarty, PLENARTY. Plenary on the right side of the board, playing with SIP, is 77. Plenarty, the other bingo for Tony, his only other playable one, is 65. So I expect him to play over on the right side of the board, score 77, and keep the scoring assault on.
Yep. Yeah, it's just a matter of finding that and then deciding there's nothing else playable, or at least nothing else worth doing. Maybe looking through some of the letters in natures just to make sure there's no 8s that will play for quite a few more points here. But Tony definitely has one superior option here. It's just about finding it.
And there's a word Tony knows for sure.
Oh, for sure.
I spoke with him over the summer, and he said he's been studying quite a bit, trying to polish off his game. He's in retirement and has some time, and loves the game and wants to come back to it and get as solid as possible. So I know that he's card boxed this word before, this rack before, and I think he's just going to take his time, make sure there's nothing cooler through the N or through the A that he needs to play over on the right side of the board.
Right. Yeah, definitely worth on a board like this where there are places where bingos theoretically could score quite a lot of points. This is definitely a situation where you want to take some more time and think about it. Scorned or uncords, somewhat less so. A lot of the plays scored very similarly. This situation, however, could you slot something in the triple line, scores a bunch, but I think he's decided, yep, plenary is the only one here worth going for, and that's what he does.
So plenary for 77 for Tony, a bingo for Jason, a bingo from Tony, and 239 to 151 the score now. But because of the play of plenary, this board is wide open for scoring opportunities, and Jason threatens a number of mammoth plays here. He needs to figure out which one is the best one. To me, the standout option is also the highest scoring play. 53 points available to Jason with the play of a whirl, AWHIRL, making YA down on the right bottom side of this board. That's 53. Holding a U is not something you like to do, but scoring 53 points is really hard to pass up. There are other really cool options for Jason, though. Just HAW is a more human play alongside plenary. Crush that triple word. That's 49. And WAIRUA cleans up this yucky rack really well, playing through the A in natures for 34. So sometimes when a play looks obvious, like HAW here, you need to take a step back and see if there's anything else. A slight misplay here from Jason. A whirl, I think, is a clearly better option.
Yeah, I think taking a little bit of extra time here was definitely worth it for Jason. A whirl looks like it's winning the simulation by a little bit of a margin for sure. Um, there's an argument to be made for not leaving the HAW spot where he just played open, which a whirl would do. Some of the biggest comebackers are already on the board, though. For example, the X is already there, so Tony's not going to be able to hit the spot back for 70. His worst case comeback would be something like Hoff for 40 or 50. I think a whirl is definitely the play. Some of the other ones are really cool, but Ha isn't the biggest miss in the world.
Yeah, not a big miss, but I'll say it 1,000 times this tournament. You need to hit every turn optimally across a 31 game tournament. It's not a matter of making one turn correct. It's a matter of making 80 or 90% of the turns correctly. And this is not one of those turns from Jason. You don't know what the tile bag is going to get you. All you got to do is milk every point out of every tile you get from the bag. And a few points left on the table there. But back over to Tony, EEINNOP, his post bingo draw. He's got to be staring down at the N and the A on the left side of this board with the lead on turn. You need to take opportunities away from your opponent and play some defense. He needs to figure out the best way to do that. Stacking above natures with the play of OPEN shuts down a lot of stuff. Does set up the possibility for non-bingo triple triples or 9-letter triple triples, but it at least obstructs most of the possibilities Jason could have there. So that's one option. Playing down through the N is another option. The nice 7-letter PENNINE is 30 here for Tony. He could play opine and EL above. That would mostly take out that line, although still some threatening plays through the A available. This is a tricky turn, but I think open, the standard play, is also the best option here. How do you feel about this, Chris?
Yeah, I would take a good bit of time on this play, honestly. I would look at, what the bag is looking like already. It's a bit early for that, but, make sure there aren't any huge threats left in there. I would definitely have spent a little bit more time on it. Now, that's not necessarily the right choice to do, spending a lot of time on this play, but I think it was worth a little bit more consideration than this. Opine's worth considering. There's not too many terrible things that can come back on the triple double line in column B. I mean, still obviously quite a few, but I would have liked to see Tony maybe spend a bit more time, but maybe moving on and just kind of obstructing all of this is a good thing to do. It does put him up by 67 as well. So he might be thinking defense is worth more than maybe making the equity play like, Opine or Penning might be.
Yeah, a really important turn for Tony. I feel like he did it right, but I do agree with Chris. I think I'd have taken a step back and really assessed the situation, taken a good long look at the unseen pool. In any case, open the play from Tony. Nice board closing play in open. And Jason has another yucky rack. His ILRU leave was met with about the worst combination of letters he could have pulled into it. IW is not what you're looking to add. And he's found an A as well. It's going to be a tricky turn for Jason. AULIC plays to the C in Scorned if he wants to try to get this board open now. Though with a bunch of eyes on his rack, it almost feels more appropriate to just let that juicy double line sit there as long as possible. WAR plays Beneath Natures, making Paw, Ada, and NUR. That's 29, but holds the abysmal IILU leave. And aside from one of those two plays, there really doesn't seem like there's much for Jason to do. Fishing UI beneath ET for 8 points is one of Quackle's top options, and that shows you how devastating that draw was for Jason in this instance. We may even see an exchange from him.
Yeah, this is the consequence of maybe not going for a whirl last turn as well. Holding the ILRU opens up draws like this. Drawing AWI is obviously not something you can really account for, but this is not a great situation. I don't envy Jason, but he has found something kind of creative, giving himself the A hook by only playing Yorick. Unfortunately, that's going to be picked right apart by Tony.
Yeah, Tony's drawn into Snifter, another beer word for Chris. Appreciate that for you.
Hey.
And Snifter comes down 70 points, right in the line that Jason opened up. These are so frustrating if you're Jason. I try to open the board and catch up, and you just bingo there, and now I'm dead. But hey, that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes in competitive Scrabble. Not that opening the board was wrong. You have to do it. It's just that it didn't work in this iteration.
Right.
AEI, yeah, AEILVWY now Jason's rack as he continues to navigate through some awkward letters, but high scoring options for Jason. Wave, WAIVE, plays above the L in Loon for 47, holds the synergistic LY combination. Looks like the play to me.
Yeah, I think as soon as he spots that, which he's already got it set up, I think he plays it, expressing a little bit of frustration, saying, I don't want to have to play this, but I think I have to, with his body language there. Yeah, I think Uric is a creative way to get out of a really terrible situation in his last track, but when you make a play like that, you know you're already fighting the uphill battle, even before Tony puts down the comeback bingo. Got to take chances like that. Give yourself that triple lane with something like Uric. And Jason will go for wave here. Just take the points and hope something falls into your lap in the next few turns.
Yeah, wave, definitely the best play. Jason would rather almost any other tile to be placed on that triple word square than a W, because bingoing down to that tile is going to be his best chance to get back into this game. But alas, it's all the cards dealt you, and playing alive instead of wave, sacrificing 9 points and keeping a W on your rack, that's just nuts. So you have to play wave here and just hold your breath and hope for a miracle if you're Jason.
Yeah, and even having the A there is more friendly, but still not game-changingly more friendly as well. So you got to take the points from Jason's perspective here and just hope for the next few turns. But moving on to this one, it looks like Tony now has a chance to actually steal the spot that Jason set up with Yorick. I think his best play, not to give it away, sorry, chat, his best play may actually involve yoinking that spot, though it does open the board, so he may consider something different.
Yeah, so the play Chris is referring to, mute me now if you don't want it. It's Tibiae, Tibiae, front hooking Auric. That's 34 points. Now, you don't want to string this board open in this situation if you're Tony, but if you score 34 this turn, even if Jason bingos for 100 to the T, you're still in a good position to win the game. So this is an instance, I think, where you can just turn on the jets, run away as fast as you can, and leave Jason in the dust if you're Tony. He does have the key G tile as well to make Midgy, Midgy, and play down there. And Tibiae is a really strong play because it keeps that G, so it's going to allow his scoring to continue. I think if I were in this situation, I love just taking control of the game and winning slowly in boring fashion. BAIT on top of Snifter, making ASIN and TI, knocks out any opportunity to front hook UR and makes it really difficult to do anything productive on this board as far as bingos go. I think that locks in a win for Tony as well in most instances. But when you're ahead by 100 points and on turn, you can do just about anything and win the game.
Right, yeah, and I think this play, and as Tony makes the play, I might not be able to make my point too quickly here, but this play opens up a discussion about, well, it's early in a long tournament. Is Tony interested in maybe winning this game by a lot and trying to pick up some spread points, or is he more interested in just securing a win and making sure his win-loss record is better for the long run? And there's a discussion to be had there about which is more valuable early in a tournament. Tibiae might be worth considering if you really just want to try to milk this game for a spread, at the risk of maybe losing, of course. But it looks like Tony is going to play the more conservative option of just dropping bait, holding the G, as you said, for Midgy, but anything there will also open up the board. So I think bait here is definitely the I want to win this game play, and it's really hard to argue with winning.
You play to win the game, I think is a famous football quote. And it's appropriate in Scrabble too, actually. Most people play Scrabble to try to win the game. So Good choice, Tony. Try to win the game. Tony
Mhm.
leads by 98 points after bait, and Jason with an awkward rack A, B, D, J, K, L, Y. But the play of bait allows really high scoring overlaps for Jason. He can play bulk for 47, holding D, J, Y, or Lakey for 47, holding B, D, J, or bald for just 35, holding J, K, Y. Or he can leave that spot alone entirely and go play underneath natures if he wants. KAB, making pack, eta, and nub is also 40. So just points all over the place on this board for Jason, but scoring 40 is not going to be enough for him. He needs a bingo, and his rack
Mhm.
is so bad that every reasonable option has a bingo percentage down near zero for him next turn. But it's all
Mhm.
you can do.
Yeah, I think you probably have to take the points here as well because, yeah, as much as you do need that bingo, you might just have to hope that you can find a way to make that happen. Not bingo next turn, but give yourself another realistic lane here. Lakey and Bulk do both create a bingo lane, albeit not the easiest one. There's some front hooks to both the YIN and KIN. YIN having a few more, especially the ones that are still available as well. So I think Lakey is probably the play. His win percentage is still near zero, of course, but being able to score 47 points and create at least a theoretical lane is about the best you can hope for in this situation.
What do you think Jason's bingo percentage was after the play of Lakey?
Well, holding BDJ, right?
Yes.
Basically zero.
0.2. So I guess there's still something, and he
There's got to be
found the
something.
play.
Yeah.
And not, I think your analysis was right. Like Lakey, I think is the correct play. Open up the possibility for stacks on top. Hold your breath and pray.
Mhm.
And it's gone about as well as Jason could have hoped. He's not going to bingo this turn, but he found all the good stuff. He can threaten a big play next turn and then try to bingo. Jason's not done yet in this game after a big draw and a big score.
Mhm. Yeah, and
AEGIITV, Tony's rack, and he needs to figure out how to address the spot. Now, Lakey gives him the option to take those front hook. KAS takes a front A, YIN takes a front T, and he can play Atigi, ATIGI, for 37 points on top. He's also
mhm.
looking at the right side of the board, SIP takes a back E. So it looks like he's thinking about playing Vite and SIPE here. But if I'm Tony, I am always going to take away the spot where Jason can bingo for 100. I think Tony's best plays Tony needs to take away the opportunity on top of Lakey here.
Mhm. Yeah, and Atigi has the benefit of forcing at least two overlaps if uh, Jason is going to come back and make a bingo there. He would have to at least start above the G in Atigi if he's going to bingo horizontally above it. So I think as much as it looks a little bit weird to hang the I out there, the board geometry is just so with QI that I think Atigi is probably the play, but looks like he thinks differently. He's going to go ahead and just play Vite, take away some easy points, and hanging the V there is obviously very defensible, but it's a little nerve wracking leaving a potential bingo there, even though Jason does not have it.
And this is just a gut punch for Jason, who had jabs and sips set up
Mm,
last turn. He was going to hold a CD blank, score, maybe bingo, or you're saying there's a chance, and then no, the spot taken away. And Jason forced now to play JA, just nothing else to do here for him. So 46 points, BCDS. I wonder if we're going to get a Scrabble sighting. Jason might be able to draw into the word Scrabble here. So that's fun.
it's there, sort of. You might have to get rid of the D or play it as a bit longer. Well, there's the R. And the H. Never mind.
No Scrabble, no Scrabble, at least not yet. But yeah. Did you know that if you play the word Scrabble in Scrabble, you automatically win the game? If
I'm.
you knew
I'm.
that, that's not true. It's not a real thing.
It feels like you should, but unfortunately, the tournament Scrabble is not burrito.
burrito, the fun after hours variant where whoever plays the word burrito first wins, and that's the only rule in the game.
Yes.
It's a fun little variant for when you want to turn your brain off and just giggle with your friends.
Hmm.
Tony has a tricky turn here. It feels like you can navigate this game to victory often, but AKAS has 5 front hooks. They are H, K, T, V, W. And looking at the unseen pool from Tony's POV, 4 of those 5 tiles are out of play entirely. There's just the one T and a blank that threaten plays there. And honestly, if I'm Tony at this score, I think I can even survive those sad bingos that play on top. Say you do play a 7-letter word starting with the T. Well, you've just exposed a huge triple word to me, and I'm probably just going to destroy it. Say Jason plays touched and takas.
Hmm.
Tony's going to respond with 40 or 50 points nearly every time as long as he doesn't pull an abysmal rack. So I don't think Tony needs to fixate on blocking that spot in this instance. He just needs to try to keep scoring pressure on and not open the board up to any new opportunities for Jason. Now, if he wants to block the line, he can do it. He can play down to the R in Uric, something like fair or its anagram FIAR, FIAR. But I don't think it needs to be a priority in this situation. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, Tony's in a spot where he wins the game very often, but not 100%. And I don't really see any plays available to him that really secure the win. Jason's done a very good job of scoring well and at least threatening to come back in the game and maybe take it. Um, from Tony's perspective, nothing really feels extremely safe. Like you said, there's several options that address the 2-row bingo options. Just playing down to the R there is an option. Anything you hang out there could theoretically be bingoed through as well. But this play here, FIGO, really doesn't address the spot, but does at least move tiles, does score points. Um, it
Why didn't
doesn't
he
give him
play
anything back, at least.
just slide it over one spot, play GUR and OR? That to me feels like you're giving up way fewer points back to Jason. But maybe he wants to set up spots for him to stack and score on top. I'm not sure, but sliding that one spot over seems way stronger to me.
Oh yeah, I honestly I was looking at my Quackle screen instead of the stream here, and I thought he had put it one spot over. So that is an interesting choice. He is holding the case A, I guess, if he's
Oh,
thinking about going there, but then there is still the U in the bag for Jason to take that spot. So I'm not sure what the thought process is there, but maybe there's something we're missing.
maybe. Or maybe Tony just kind of made this play on, like he probably saw Figo up there and then looked at other options and then just picked up Figo again and missed the spot. Like there's a number of explanations. I don't know that this
Mhm.
was tactical necessarily, but Tony with an important position now, looking at the unseen pool, 3 tiles are in the bag. He cannot give up an out bingo, or he'll lose the game. Probably wants to play just 2 tiles on this turn to avoid emptying the bag, but he's got some problem solving to do. He needs to figure out what Jason can threaten, what Jason's best lines are, and then what he needs to do, if anything, to block those lines.
Mhm.
He is not 100% to win this game. He's probably not even 90% to win this game anymore. And he has
Yeah.
a really, really important decision to make here.
Yeah, I realize we may have missed Jason's play that he made very quickly there of Parch. And we're back
Yes.
over to Tony already. And Tony might be able to just kind of put this one away if I'm reading his. Oh, I'm reading his rack wrong. Never mind. I thought he had a bingo option, but using my eyes is typically a good choice.
Oh my God, Jason has 2 playable bingos, or 1 playable bingo right now.
Yes.
And it is not where it looks like it would go. He does not use either of the floating tiles in Parch. It's because Tony played Figo in that really weird spot. Jason has a 4 overlap
Oh,
bingo in the 3rd row. He has B dusts for 80. I don't know if he sees it. He hasn't set it up on his rack yet, but I bet it's a word Jason knows if he can think to look in that spot. Is
Mhm.
again, like, you have to take your games where you're 95% and make them 100%. And Tony's placement of Figo just makes no sense because it allows this play GUR, which has no front hooks, and win the game.
Mhm.
Um, don't let these nightmare scenarios happen by stopping them from ever being set up in the first place. I don't know. Maybe Tony wanted to stack on top of Figo next turn and take out the Taka's spot and everything else, but whoa. Uh, I
Yeah,
don't know
this
what's going to happen in this game. I think we're going to see Tony end up playing two tiles, either Oka through the C or OO and OH.
mhm.
Maybe he tries to obstruct the lines on top, just OO on top of Figo. But I don't think we're going to see him play more than two tiles here. And it's a matter of if he blocks B dusts or not.
Yeah, and one thing if he is low on time, so he's got to be in crunch mode right now. That's got to be weighing on his mind. But given more time, he should definitely be looking at the pool, see what's there, see what's possible, and see that B Dust or maybe even a few other things are theoretically an option above Figo. But he is crunched for time, so he's got to decide. He's got to pick something. Looks like he's going to go with Eco through the C there, partially take away the H line. Maybe some really really cool tens available, obviously given different tiles, but he's got to play something. And now it falls to Jason to see if he can spot that bingo, which will probably just lock up the game for him.
Yeah, bingoing here is 100% to win for Jason. There's one tile in the bag from his POV, but no matter what tile it is, Tony's rack is going to be so inflexible, and Jason will be able to go out with that one tile. If Jason finds B dusts, he steals this game where I had effectively written him off 5, 6 turns ago. And that
Yes.
would be incredible for him. But he's got to find it. He has 12 minutes to spend his time here.
Yep. Yeah, I'm sure he'll spend every second of those 12 minutes, maybe minus about 10 for that final tile. But it really comes down to this. Can you spot Bidus with the blank S? It's a tough one to
And
find.
this is what it's all about. Players spend 30, 40, 50, 60, 120 minutes a day typically studying words, pounding through Aerolith, looking at their flashcards or whatever method they choose to study. It's for moments like this. You got a blank, you got some goodies, you got one line with an awkward fit, but it's possible. Find it. This is Scrabble 101.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it looks like Jason is maybe double checking his tracking or something of the sort here, which smart. He is within range that the game is theoretically winnable without a bingo. So you want to make sure you've got all the correct stuff on Tony's rack, plus the one that's still in the bag. Make sure you have all the information to think through a potential end game situation. Um, should he not bingo, there are some interesting plays that are available, and he keeps picking up just the B.
Fishing
Looks
already.
like,
Jason, slow down. You have 10 minutes.
yeah,
You have
unless we've
to
got the.
play.
And I'm very confused about dropping just the B there specifically. I don't feel like it gives much back, but that's the choice he's made.
That's the choice he's made. Why would you go so fast in that situation? Make sure, like, it makes more sense, I think, to fish RE for two and create a second line at the bottom. A lot of things make more sense. There's one spot for you to threaten this bingo now. I don't know what he was hoping to draw to hit from the H, but you expect an E is going to come a lot of the time, and an E doesn't hit with the H at the bottom of the board. I don't know, but
Yeah.
Jason's just throwing this game away.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he thought he saw something available above Figo that wasn't Bitus that he could pull into. I haven't looked quite through all the potential options up there, but or maybe he thinks he can run away with the end game. I'm not really sure, but strange to not spend some more time at very least thinking about that position.
So Jason does threaten two separate bingos, but both play at the top of the board. One in the second row, one in the third row. Teledues and Takas or Deputes on top of Figo are both playable, but all Tony has to do is make any valid play right here, and
Mhm.
the game is over. This is why that decision for Jason is so confusing. There's one bingo line, you fish somewhere else, you don't create a new line, and now you just get blocked and lose. You had 12 minutes to think about that turn. It's really shocking to me.
Yeah, I don't have words for it, and you can see the frustration in Jason's body language as well. Perhaps he's just spotted that a bingo was even possible in that position. If you don't look too closely at Figo, it might not immediately click that there are, in fact, 7 tiles uninterrupted in a row there. But yeah, or maybe he's even retrospectively seen Bedus or something, and now he's frustrated. Brutal way to lose this game for sure, but it does appear to be locked away for Tony.
It's easy for me to sit here in the commentary booth too and like criticize people's play, but I would have bungled this game 6 ways from Sunday if I were in Jason's shoes. So I apologize if I'm coming off as very critical, but I hold players in this tournament, the North American Championship, to an impossibly high standard, and few players are able to rise to it. But again, you have to make every single play correctly, like all game, and it's really hard to do that all the time. Jason did a great job clawing back into a game where he felt completely done, but unable to close the door on his comeback attempt.
Yeah, and commendable for sure to be able to even put this game into a position where it was retrievable. Being down as much as he was 120, 130 earlier in the game, and to make it even possible to maybe win this game is impressive. But just missing that crucial end game conversion is going to make this comeback not quite happen.
Yeah, not quite able to close the door on this one, but an exciting game. Jason showing, hey, I almost caught up without even bingoing in this game. I just scored, and but Tony able to do just enough. He committed to the defense with his play of bait, and he was able to play just enough defense to win this one.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like Jason is thinking about just fishing TAG here and then going out with like a stag kind of play, just a killer score there. Don't know if that's actually his correct in-game sequence or not, but I don't think he can win no matter what happens.
Yeah, I just punched it into Quackle, and unless it's missing another possible option, that looks like it might actually win by one more than something else. Quackle obviously not known for spotting every single possible end game, though, so Jason's going to take some time, at least make sure there's nothing that could squeak out the craziest win ever, but then play for spread beyond that.
Yeah, you want to milk spread out of any game at any point in a tournament unless it's the very end. So Jason can now take the extra time that he didn't use on the game clinching turn to milk spread out of this turn instead. All right, our next game is one that I could not pass up on the matchups, given who is in the commentator booth, Matt Canik and my brother, Chris Canik. And when we saw a matchup between two brothers, we had to pick it. So our next game is going to stay in the CSW division, and we will show you twin brothers Charles and Thomas Reinke face off in what's going to be absolutely two awesome, hilarious dudes. And I'm so excited to get to sit here with my brother and troll these brothers.
Oh, man, we're going to have to find some creative ways to just, oh, man. I'm going to have to do some thinking about how we can make this as painful as possible for them if they ever go back and watch our commentary for their game.
Absolutely, yeah. We gotta get the troll patrol on duty. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
If you had told me back in 2006 when I was a little punk 13-year-old losing in Division 6 of the U.S. Open to these Reinke brothers that, almost 20 years later, I'd be sitting streaming the North American Championship to a crowd of 200 viewers with my brother while we watched them contend for a title, I would have called you crazy. But here we are, and life takes us in crazy directions, and it's super cool. Like, that's the coolest thing about Scrabble is you're around the same people for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. I've watched these gangly teenagers grow up into homeowners, and, they started a band. People have watched me grow up from whatever the heck I used to be to whatever the heck I am now. You get to watch people get older, get married, get unmarried, get remarried, have kids, have grandkids, have great grandkids. You're just around the same folks all the time. Scrabble's a little bit of chicken soup for the soul, and just watching people live their lives and celebrate happiness and achievements. You meet some awesome folks out there.
For sure. And as I'm sliding back into the tournament scene after a little bit of a hiatus myself, I'm really excited to get to know a lot of the people who have remained in the scene and a lot of the new players in the scene too. I mean, listening to you tell stories about your past interactions with these two players we're watching right now, I'm realizing that's something I've missed a lot. And I'm looking forward to making some memories as I'm getting back into going to tournaments as well. Hopefully, to bring it back to this game, though, I don't make any memories like the one Jason might be pulling out of this game, though. Um, Looking back on this game will be a painful one for him.
Jason's been around for long enough. It's not going to be the first time where he's had a winning play and doesn't spot it. It's not going to be the last time. Scrabble humbles all of us. Scrabble humbles every single person on the screen. We watched Matthew Tunnicliffe and Josh Sokol, who are two phenomenal players, play one of the worst games of Scrabble I've ever seen. Scrabble humbles everybody, but what you have to do is when Scrabble humbles you, and it will humble you, you must learn from those experiences or you're not going to get better. So many players fall into the trap of throwing their hands up and saying, Tony bingoed 3 times in 5 turns. I had no shot. Mm-hmm. I hate when I hear that. I hate when people say I had no shot. Jason demonstrating you do have a shot, even when stuff goes wrong. He fought his way back into this game. He nearly pulled it out.
That's true. And of course, we sit here. You may have been able to pull this game together, but I certainly would not have been able to pull this together, especially in the Collins lexicon. So it is rich for me to be sitting here saying that Jason will have negative feelings about this one for sure.
How about Tony Leah, though? 8-1. What a start to this tournament for him. I spoke to him in Niagara in May, and he said he had been studying a lot, but also he's one of the only people I've ever heard just come out of the room and be like, man, I've given away like 6 games this tournament. I'm playing terribly. Most of the time when people have poor results, you hear excuses, you hear about their blank counts, you hear some statistic about why they're unlucky. And Tony owned it more than I've ever seen anybody own it. I'm just playing terrible today. I'm making dumb mistakes, and I deserve my record and probably deserve a few more losses. That humility in Scrabble is so important to improving. And I think Tony learned some lessons from Niagara. He now sits at 8-1 and a field with a lot of really incredible players. Hats off to you, Tony.
Yeah, that's a great start in a long tournament like this. Yeah, you're always happy to pick up a bunch of early wins and put yourself among those front runners. Good stuff. Maybe we'll be seeing a little bit more of him on this board.
And Jason, going with the setup, he has spotted play TAG. He's got diffuse as an outplay, and Tony unable to do anything to stop it. But it's going to be slightly too little, slightly too late. Tony, I think if everything goes well, he's going to win this one 445 to 431 after he plays off his last 2 tiles somewhere.
Yep. Yeah, I think he's going to just kind of check over the options with his last few seconds here, make sure there's nothing he's missing. Jason didn't have some clever setup somewhere else on the board, but this one is pretty straightforward. He's going to take some points down here. Looks like 8 for HOI. 1 more point available above wave for OE. There we go. And back to Jason to close this one out. Yep.
Yeah, so OE and diffuse the final sequence. And there it is. 445 for the Canadian, 431 for Jason. And that is it for this one. Definitely some instructional positions, some neat positions. I enjoyed calling this one, even when it looked like it was going to get ugly. It did not get too ugly.
Yeah, this game definitely threatened to turn into a defensive closed down board where one player just kind of closed it out on autopilot and wins by 100. But Jason clawed back, gave us an interesting one, and lots of really cool positions in this one. Lots of stuff to think about, learning a little bit about the strategies of both these players as well, given the situation of the game. It was a good one.
Jason showing us that moment that we've all done where as soon as the clock is lines, you pull out your phone and type in like 6 different racks. Oh my God, did I miss something?
Yep.
We'll let Jason figure out his own conclusion on this one. Let's cut to overhead mic and hear what we get from these gents.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if I should have played that a little bit differently, but like
You were just going gangbusters with 40-point plays.
well,
You
the
had
40-point plays there was just it was
four
also I was
plays,
just like
almost 50 points.
yeah, well
each.
that's what I just you know what I just needed unless yeah. You know what I just needed, you know what, and I didn't see I mean I'm not I should have yeah, there was nothing you know what, I just well, yeah, like I just needed. I had the wrong. This D was just in the way that I knew that. I mean, you know, I was kind of thinking and hoping. I actually, when you play this, I had jabs set up to go over here.
You had what?
Jabs set up to go
Oh,
over
yeah.
here. I think that
Well,
might have. I think that might have. But I was actually
I
really
almost
fine with that.
almost played here.
Yeah.
Dat.
Yeah.
But I would have kept 2 eyes on my rack. Scored more. Would have scored more. Would have then
Yeah.
prevented you from doing that. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I would have had 3 eyes on the rack.
Yeah. You know what? Like, as much as I mean counter, but I mean I don't know that this is gonna happen. I mean, actually, maybe I should just play the B here instead.
To create a line above it.
Well, the thing was, I had the T in the blank for tacos here.
Yeah.
So I was.
Well, of course, that's why I blocked.
No, because I mean, the other thing was, I mean, of course, I'm not going to do this, but if I had played the S instead, I would have had the 2 down there. But yeah, that doesn't seem like it's the right play. But I'm looking at.
I bet you.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to block there.
Yeah, that was and like you know what
At
actually I
least
mean there
I
were
blocked
other
the
things there
C.
were other things that I could have hit if I picked a different tile out if I picked
Yeah.
the I did go out if I picked yeah it just
Yeah,
Right.
no, I couldn't see anything that was guaranteed to block. But with what I had, AEILMOO,
yeah and you know I thought you had all vowels as well which is why when I saw that came down I'm like how did my tracking go wrong
yeah, no,
so
I don't think it was conclusive. One way or the
Yeah.
other. At that point,
I mean-
if you don't bingo, you don't think you can win without bingo.
wait sorry say again
I don't think you can win without a bingo.
yeah that's
At that
I mean
point.
I I tried
Of course.
yeah all right so sorry 431 to 449
Yeah.
yeah so they're like
All right, so 449 to 431. It sounds like the score that these gentlemen come to, but 445 is what we've got as well. We do have 2 more games in the morning session from South Bend, Indiana. My God, I need some more coffee. Help me, send help, please. We're going to cut to a brief break so I can rectify that situation and put coffee in my cup. But when we come back, Charles Ranke, Thomas Ranke, broadcast by Matt Canik and Chris Canik. Oh, that sounds fun. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a few minutes.